Hello, everybody. I'm excited today to be able to talk to you about some of the trends that Vertiv sees going into 2021 in the data center and the telecommunication industry. So first, let me start with the topic that's been pretty prevalent over the last 6 months, which is really the fact that digitalization is on a fast forward momentum. So as we entered into 2020, nobody clearly saw the pandemic coming our way. But with that, we all found different new tools and uses of digitization that has now become the norm in our everyday lives. And whether or not people are working from home or working in the office, these tools are still going to stay with us regardless of the location that we are in. Secondly, with the topic of digitalization really comes the fact that customers' expectations, our expectations, are much higher today than they were years ago around speed, around security, around latency. And that is all going to push the topic of the edge and edge of network. So thinking about moving edge devices in compute and storage and networking closer to the consumer for latency and security purposes is going to be critical. The added nuance that we see is the fact that the edge is going to continue to be more and more sophisticated. When you have a decentralized network like the edge of network, you need to make sure that you have some sophistication there so it can be monitored and maintenance in the type of way that you would a classic enterprise colocation or cloud-based data center. Okay, so that brings us to the third trend that we've identified for 2021, which is really the advent of 5G. And there's a lot of close relationships and intercoupling between edge and 5G. And really what we see in 5G is the fact that, in 2020, we saw a lot of deployments start, particularly in the US and in China. We think those are going to continue for the next couple of years. We think there's going to be other parts of Southeast Asia that start to come online. And then really towards the end of 21 and probably more into 22 is when we'll start to get some of the developed countries rolling out 5G. But specifically in 5G, there's a lot more power that is being consumed by that network because there's that much more data that is coming through those networks, and the frequency at which the 5G equipment operates on is higher. So when you take all of that, when you take more data, a higher frequency, needing more sites for both coverage and capacity, that all leads to the fact that that telecom network is going to draw more power moving forward than it has historically. So our role as an industry, our role as a company is to help those telecom companies figure out a way to continue to keep that energy cost down and to be much more efficient in how they do their power and cooling, both in their cell sites as well as in their core sites. The fourth one, which ties in a couple of the other things I've already talked about, is this topic of sustainability. Now, sustainability is not new. It's not a new vernacular, but knowing that there's more edge devices, knowing that there's more 5G locations that are going to be out there, how do we as an industry and how do we as Vertiv specifically make sure that we have sustainability in the forefront, and whether that's better power utilization, whether that's less water utilization, the arbitrage between those two when we're thinking about how to power or cool data centers or telecom centers is going to be really, really important for us. And then lastly, the fifth trend that we see is really the fact that, telecom and really data centers are going to become utility-like. Telecom is almost already there, but when you think about, water and gas and electricity, those are typical utilities you think about. Data centers are going to become that from the standpoint of being that important. So when you think about historically, we would have talked about in the data center landscape, people wanting to choose either efficiency or availability or resiliency. We definitely see the fact that that's not going to be an either or question as we head into the future state. It's going to be an and statement. So it's not, do you want your data center to be more efficient or do you want it to be more reliable? It's going to be, I have to have resiliency and I have to have it efficient. And so thinking about data centers and then the network that connects it as much more utility-like because it's that critical to our everyday lives is the fifth trend that we are presenting here today. So thank you very much.